Yeah, Doug's listed a few good things. I got that LNW expansion 2 from him.
Mm.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready.
Here they come.
And here they are, and here we are. Are we recording, Pete?
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to Trash Talk number...
Now
Got
we are.
it. Now we're recording. Welcome to Trash Talk number 21, everyone. My name's Ian Maverick, coming to you from sunny Melbourne, Australia on Sunday morning. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you're dialing in from around the world. Got 2 hours of TRS-80 Trash Talk. Just wanted to talk with you all and let us know what you've been doing this last month, January 2022. I'm going to throw some darts at my screen and go randomly around, pick up people, and you can tell me what you've been up to. The only real rules we have here is if you could have your mobile phone set to silent and avoid swearing. Only person here allowed to swear is me.
Turn your TRS-80s on, phones off.
Exactly.
You just suffered a massive defeat in the cricket. The odd swear word might come along, Mav. You do.
We wiped the floor with you, Dusty. All right. My good mate, George Phillips. How you going, buddy? How's Canada?
Oh, it's pretty good, actually. Weather's been treating us pretty well.
That's good. Better than New York. It's just a white wonderland at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we got about 10 inches here, so it's not too bad. But
yeah, climate change. It's climate changing, all right, but not the way the greenies want it to go.
it's winter and it's snowing.
Yeah. All right, George, what have you been up to?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Been sort of fixing the odd bug here in the emulator. One thing I did do somewhere over the holidays there was the ZX Spectrum guys run these little sort of coding competitions where they take a small problem and see who can write the sort of shortest Z80 program to do it. So it's a lot of fun to sort of, get out your chisel and see how small you can make a piece of code. I was thinking of maybe doing something like that for the TRS-80 community if there's some interest. It's there's no prizes except for glory, and it's a pretty small problem, the kind of thing that you tinker about for a couple of days and, get your entry done and then be impressed perhaps at how small someone can make something.
I wouldn't want to go up against you, George.
Well,
I actually like that idea, and I'm struggling for an idea for this year's competition with Dusty in the newsletter. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that, Dusty, unless we come up with something superior to that, I think we've pretty much had our decision made for us. So let's make it so, and I'll have a talk to you, George, about wording the blurb for the people there. I can understand why you'd be interested in the Spectrum stuff as well. For people that don't know, the Spectrum has a Z80, so rather easy for seasoned TRS-80 programmers to program.
Mav, what's been done in the past for the contest? I know games, but I don't know anything else.
Well, the first thing you need to do is download all 13 years of Dusty's TRS 8-bit. Is it 13 years, Dusty? Yeah, you're muted, mate. 15. Jesus. All right. So we've been running. I'm pulling your leg, John. No, only about the last 5 or 6 years we've been running competitions. So you can have a look at those and get the idea of how the competition runs. But basically, we come up with an idea for a competition. Which the people can program or program about. Entries close at the end of November each year, and in the December issue, us TRS-80 Trash Talkers, the ones that run the show here, Pete, Eric, George, and myself, and Aaron, decide which one is the winner, and then I send out a prize to the winner. So there's really not much to it. We try to make the competitions as easy and as accessible as possible to get as many entrants, and it varies from year to year. Last year we got 1 entrant. The previous year I think we got 10 or more entrants. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out for the next issue, John, when it comes out in March.
And if you're lucky, you'll be the only entrant.
Well, yeah, that's what I say to people. If in doubt, enter, because you could be the only entrant, and then it's an easy win.
Didn't we have the 1 year with no entrants?
Yeah, I was the winner then. I didn't have to make and send anything out out of my own pocket. I provide the prizes co-funded a little bit by Dusty there. We consider it to be an important part of keeping momentum within the TRS-80 community. Cool, George, is that it?
Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. No worries. Peter Satinsky,
Hey,
you're in black and white. You've invented a TARDIS.
I'm embracing the monochromatic TRS-80 color scheme tonight. So
People go to all this trouble to get green and amber tubes, but the white and white tubes seem to be the
You couldn't at
the
least do
popular.
amber, Pete? I mean, come on.
the true TRS-80 color is, it's a white screen. It's black and white. So
And why
Yeah.
are you in grayscale?
you want me to be pixelated?
like that guy with
Uh,
like that guy with the cat. You can put
I'm going to try to rig that up next time. I'll be 128
do.
by 64.
We're gonna hold you to that.
a
Oh, so what have I been doing? I'll be honest, not a lot TRS-80 wise. I think I sold a few Model 2 diagnostics discs to people. I've taken a lot of queries. I'm always getting emails from people asking for help and assistance, and I point them to the right people. If it's a Model 2 or 8-inch system, I'll usually give them a decent answer. But for any of the other systems, I'll toss them over to Mav or someone else. So a lot of that, those people communicating, reaching out because of the podcast. I don't know is Jim Brain on tonight? No, Jim Brain's not on tonight. Jim, I still have your 2 hard drives back here on my bench. I brought them back from Tandy Assembly. I started looking at them, but I got to get back to it. I'm sorry, but I will get to it before the next Tandy Assembly, I promise. And I've had a few people send me hardware and cards for testing. So that's sort of the ongoing thing for me, but nothing spectacular otherwise.
I think overall, most people are gonna each year have a pretty quiet January.
Yeah.
It's cold, enthusiasm's low. Probably just getting back to work after having the Christmas and New Year break. So I totally get it.
Yeah,
Good on you, Pete.
Yeah, we're going to prepare for another podcast recording here in a couple of weeks. That's going to keep going. So yeah.
Fantastic. Look forward to that. Ira, hey mate,
How are you?
it's crack-a-lackin'.
I'd say I'm in the same boat as Pete. There's not a lot going on. I had a few sets of discs about a month ago, but other than making DOS discs for people, which never seems to stop, it's been pretty slow. There's a set of discs coming in for that clone that I had just posted about, the Polytechnic one from the UK. But apparently I found someplace that has a worse postal service than the US, because it was mailed 12 days ago and still hasn't left the UK.
Oh, well, I mean, they use boats.
So we'll have to see what shape those discs are when they come in.
How well are people
Justice
packing discs? Are people packing them properly, or are they just sticking them in an envelope and hoping for the best?
No, people put them in boxes, but what's properly? Are you going to line them with aluminum foil? I mean, that's not going to be the thing that's going to get the discs. The discs are just going to get squashed, or they're going to get wet.
going to get folded, stapled, or mutilated?
They could be all of those. So I always tell people, it's not so much about the packaging as the speed. Send them overnight.
Yeah. Patrick showed us a good example there. Yeah, I have heaps of those. If I'm sending sort of quantities of 10 or more, I send them in one of those disc boxes. They arrive pretty well. It was interesting, Ira, you mentioned the aluminium foil. I haven't seen anyone send discs in aluminum foil for must be 20 years now. It's either fallen by the wayside or didn't actually help.
I think maybe I've gotten one. There's usually a lot of bubble wrap, but again, it's all about speed. Just keep it out of their hands.
Yeah.
The thing is, Ira, is I found that with the UK, a few things that I ship back and forth with Turkey is that USPS is probably the worst way of doing it. I had a box of diskette stuck in Montreal for like almost 30 days. They went Montreal, Detroit, Montreal, Chicago, Montreal. It's like the US and Canada couldn't figure out where the UK was.
It's not up to me, my friend. People ship how they're going to ship.
I know.
One thing I've noticed over this past 2 years with the slowdown in shipping times is that what also seems to be most frustrating is that the tracking service seems to lag behind the actual parcel a great deal, which frustrates the receiver probably the most, in that I've had items sent from Australia to the United States and it's marked as dropped off at my local post office, and 3 weeks later they say it hasn't moved from your post office. It says it's still at the post office, and I'm like, no, it's moved. They just haven't updated the thing. And then in the strangest of circumstances, it will arrive at its destination and they will sign for it, and it's still marked as waiting at my local post office for pickup. So the tracking service, which is supposed to allay people's concerns about where the parcel is in the process, lets down and causes more anxiety than it rectifies. So
You know what's happened? A few times it's happened to me. I'll send a disc out and the tracking says in transit, and it'll be like a week or two. The person will get in touch with me and say, where is it? And I'll say, it's the USPS. Let's give it a few more days, and still doesn't change. So I say, okay, I'm going to go send a new one out to you because I'm going to be a good seller. Never fails. I send it out, and then they get both of them delivered like at the same time. And like, okay, well,
Yep.
Deal with it.
Shipping just seems to be the bane of this entire hobby from every direction.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I bought something off eBay from the UK, and the tracking just stopped. So after a month, I said, hey, I still haven't received it. The guy refunded my money, and it's like 9 months later, it showed up.
Wow.
well, that's just ridiculous. Yeah, I
Actually,
find that there's some I don't know, something going on in the ether, in that I wait for people to complain, which they regularly do, and then if I just sit back for 2 or 3 days, it miraculously arrives. So
you do, but before the pandemic started, the USPS was actually getting quite a bit better, I thought. It would take 2 days, like they said it was going to take 2 days for a priority mail package to get there. But now I ship a package to the East Coast, it goes to the West Coast first, or it sits in South Dakota, or it sits in Utah. And if I send one to the West Coast, it goes to the East Coast first. It's just, and the given explanation, of course, is shortage of labor. But still, it's doing it backwards just isn't the right way.
yeah, I actually, it may sound like I'm really down on USPS, but I actually think for me at least, they seem to do a pretty good job. They have maybe lost one parcel in 15 years, and everything seems to arrive eventually. So and it seems to arrive without being broken. So I have a pretty good run with them. But like I say, things seem to be, you know, hopping all over the United States before they get delivered, and their tracking leaves a bit to be desired, or like they did with your ones, overshare and send it.
The driver crisis is real in the US though, because in my company, we had like 5,000 ribbons. So crates and skids and like 2/3 of a truck, an 18-wheeler all by itself, of ribbons for our company. And after 3 weeks, we're calling UPS to find out where they are. Well, they tracked it down to, it's been sitting for 3 weeks in the yard at their depot because they don't have a driver to drive the truck. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys in little brown trucks, put them in the big truck. Yeah.
It's
What
interesting.
annoys me about that is that our distribution depot for the western side of Melbourne, so my part of Melbourne, is only a 20-minute drive from me. So if something arrives and in that situation they're waiting days, or they did at one point have to wait 3 weeks to deliver something because they didn't have enough drivers, yet there is no facility or procedure for me to drive out there, knock on the door and say, here, give me this parcel, I'll pick it up myself. Otherwise, they would be overrun with Melburnians lining up to pick up their parcels from the distribution center. They'd have to hire extra people to process the endless queue of people waiting for their stuff to be delivered. But yeah. So, well, thanks for the episode 1 of Let's Gripe About USPS.
I have one more comment. It's interesting how dependent our hobby is on, shipping services. I guess it's true of a lot of hobbies, but I think more so ours, because there are a lot fewer vintage computer collectors than other things that people collect. So there are fewer people around you. So when you have to trade with someone, you usually have to ship.
But there's also the other thing about our hobby as well. There's fewer collectors. There's much greater propensity for our stuff to get broken in transit. So it's we're more vocal when things get busted.
I guess so.
I've also noticed, Mav, and the postage costs to both Australia and the States have gone up dramatically in the last sort of 18 months.
Yeah, I know they have to make a quid somehow, unfortunately. I'm kind of lucky. My postage has only gone up about 10% in the last 5 years or something, and it was already cheap to start with. And the bulk of my international stuff goes to the USA and Canada, which it would take around 5 times as much to send the same item from Canada to Australia than it costs from Australia to Canada, which is, one of the reasons I can remain competitive, because the shipping cost is relatively low still. I figure one day it's all gonna change, but for the moment, something that costs me around $18 to send to the United States or Canada costs about $48 to send here. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on postal subsidies from the government, so I'm sure that's got something.
I figured from where I live, it's the cost of horse feed. They're reverting back to the Pony Express, I think.
Actually, that's a good segue. Terry, how you going? What's up?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Nav?
It's been a pretty humid summer, actually, but I mean, I'll just shut up because you guys are probably sick of winter. So
yeah, I got about 6 inches of snow in my driveway as we're talking.
Yeah.
As far as projects, I just finished up my Model 2000 restore, and then I just got a Tandy 600 portable that I'm going to work on, and a something you might like, Mav. I got a Coco 2. It's the what is it, 3128. It's the one that was only shipped to schools. It has that weird composite modification built from the factory. So I just got that in yesterday, so I haven't even opened it yet.
That'd have a nice clear picture with its composite output compared to a television set.
Yeah, it looks pretty rough though. It definitely was in a school. She's pretty beat up.
Nice rescue. Well done.
Thank you.
Terry, what do you run on the 2000? I've never really played with them. Is it just DOS? Can you run like Windows 1 on that?
DOS, Windows 1 would run, and then I've got a port of CPM I've been playing with, but that's about all I've done with it.
A port of CPM 86.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, I'd like to get a copy of that.
Okay, yeah.
There is a Xenix, right, for the 2000? I don't think we found it, but there wasn't
I'm
there?
not sure. I haven't seen that one.
If you can lay your hands on Flight Simulator 1, Microsoft Flight Simulator 1 for
what's the processor on the 2000?
80186.
186.
There was a 186 Xenix. I don't know if Tandy sold it though. I ignored it as being below, my Xenix contempt because it didn't have an MMU.
From what I understand, the Xenix is gonna not run very well on the 2000 unless you've got just about every single technical bulletin applied, and then even then some. From what I gathered and from what folks have told me, that your 2000's got to be like extremely patched and fixed for every little issue that they detected. Otherwise, Xenix was the OS that I think, if I'm not mistaken, was the one that revealed most of the technical issues with the board, and I think it had to have a whole bunch of
Xenix
rework.
was hard on hardware.
Yeah,
I
even
can listen to him cackle. Evil laugh.
Yeah. On the Tandy 2000, I was always impressed with Flight Simulator 1. If you bought it from Radio Shack, it came with 2 discs in it, one for the Tandy 1000 and one for the Tandy 2000. If you set the 2 machines up next to each other, you found that the one for the Tandy 1000 was almost unplayable, whereas the Tandy 2000, with its, well, basically everything better than the 1000, clock speed, better video, was chalk and cheese. Quite a stark difference between them. In fact, I don't know how people even managed to play Flight Simulator on the original XT machines.
After just getting it for the 2000, I just learned that you can actually flip between F1, 2, 3, and 4 as you're playing the game. So for like taking, even on the old 8088s, it runs extremely slow and stupid. But if you flick it down into its lowest visual mode, like black and white monochrome, it'll run really fast for you to do takeoffs, landings, different maneuvers. And then when you just want to sightsee, flick it over to F4 and you'll get, the full graphics modes, which actually works on the Tandy 2000 as well. It's actually really quite neat looking.
I like that expression you use, slow and stupid. I'm going to use that one.
I know I used to play a lot of Flight Simulator on the Atari, and that's much less capable graphically than the PC machines, and I enjoyed it. I don't know how many hours, late nights, I played on that. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, there was flight simulators, if you think about it, right back to the Model 1, and they were kind of chunky graphic, but as playable or more playable than some of the ones on the early XT machines, where they're trying to push the limits of CGA graphics, and which, so don't know, but definitely some of the games, if you can get games for the Tandy 2000 that were also, there were versions for the 1000, you can really see the performance increase of the 2000 over the 1000, probably more than running spreadsheets or WP or other apps. Definitely.
By the way, I don't know if everybody knows it, but there is a flight simulator for the Model 2. I'm not sure if it's in to
I knew
archive.
there was a Model 1, the SubLogic one, but I didn't know about the Model 2. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't either.
SubLogic, that's was one of one of the earliest
That's the Model
advertisers.
1, the original.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft ended up buying that from Sublogic, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see who's next. Peter Phillips.
I'll get my microphone on here. Well, for me, actually, January and December were fairly busy because I was able to actually sit down and fix some problems. So, and little bugs have been rolling in, but the biggest thing is that I finally got the Type 1 status to work properly on the Model 2 in the floppy controller so that the TRS-80 restore command finally works. It's too dull to describe in detail, and I don't really know how the chip really works, but that'll be sometime in the future, it'll be completely sorted out. The biggest thing, I can share something here, was trying to deal with, let me see if I can find this. All right. Get the pointer going here. I don't know if you can see where my mouse cursor is, but I got a copy of a program called PFS File, and there's a bunch of back and forth to get it to actually just even boot. And I discovered that maybe there's copy protection, but setting the diskette as write protected would get it to boot. And that was hopefully about it. But then I actually kind of explored it further and said, well, on the real hardware, I can go into design file and format a disk and use it, but it doesn't work on the emulator. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's true. That's kind of odd. This is a Model 3 program, and the Model 3 disk emulation is pretty good. So I was kind of surprised by that. So when I dug into it, it's not going to let me change. Hang on. Oh, there we go. I dug into it, and formatting is fairly simple. You write about 6,000 bytes to each track. Now, what's in there is important. There's gaps and the formatting information, but there's mostly just sending bulk data. So I looked at this, and the buffer starts out with about 78 kind of leader bytes, and there's the zeros, and then after the zeros is the start of the first sector, which is the index data address mark. So in short form, the buffer has 78 4Es and a few 16s, and then the A1s are the data marks. But when I formatted it on TRS-80 GP, I found that track 0 got mangled, and the first sector was just cut in half practically. And the rest of the tracks were consistently mangled. And what I saw is that if the buffer started out with about 96 bytes here or something, then on TRS-80 GP on the emulator, I would lose one of the A1s, which is enough to damage the sector. And I don't know where those bytes went. And I looked at this further, and looking at the flow chart, formatting is a little bit tricky. They call it write track, because in the flow chart, the first byte comes in and there's an acknowledgement, a data request, or data request is sent, and then you send the data for the first byte. It delays a bit. And then what it does is that it waits for the index pulse, and that could take 200 milliseconds, in the worst case. Then it drops down and it goes into the B section here, which is just a continuous loop to write the track. So there's a big delay here. And normally that wouldn't be a problem, but on the Model 3, usually the disk routines, they set the hardware up to generate a wait state so that the Z80 will be forced to wait until the disk controller says it's ready. However, there's something in the way called the WS Gen timeout. They actually have a counter in there that after about a millisecond, WS Gen will be released. So what I found was happening is that the right track would actually start somewhere in the middle of the track. The first byte would go out, and then the PFS file routines would blindly try to send the second byte, which would cause a timeout 1 millisecond. So now the disk has moved farther along. And so each timeout is giving you 1 millisecond along the disk, but at the cost of you're missing a byte from your header. So that's the result here, is that just about 90 some bytes get chopped up. And I did some math here, but you've got enough for about around 200 timeouts or 195 bytes, which is way more than the header. And even the average case, 100 is too much. So at this point, I was somewhat lost because it works on the real hardware. And although the routine is not really correct, there's something wrong with the emulator. I don't know what. Is like, this WNJS is a bunch of circuits and chips. It's like, maybe I read something wrong. I don't understand it, or I have no idea. So I had to give up, and I had to actually say, okay, Ira, please send me the actual formatted diskette image so I can take a look. And there was some good news in there, in that just like in the emulator, track 0 was mangled. The first sector was mangled, and that's what I expected. And obviously the disk doesn't care about the first sector. But the problem was, if you look at the bottom here where it says real, it didn't eat up all the header. There was like still 7 4Es left and the 16 zeros. I think the zeros are probably important. There needs to be a little bit of quiet to make sure that the marks are detected. And it's pretty consistent. It was always be about 7 or 8, sometimes 9. But when the disk formatting got going, it sort of acted like a clock. So wherever it was starting close enough that it didn't run out of header. And if you do the math, there's approximately, but there's somewhere around 23, 24 milliseconds here that's unaccounted for. And again, maybe the WS timeout was longer than I thought. But it didn't take long to figure it out, because this flow chart here I show you has actually been altered. This is actually like when it gets into the writing. But the actual one starts out with a enter, reset some bits, check if the disk is ready. And then this is maybe like 10 years ago. There's a part that says set hold is E = 1, and so on. And there's a loop in here. And I don't know what hold is and why it waits 15 milliseconds.
HLD is head load.
Yeah. At the time I ignored it. But then if I looked at this closely, it's like it doesn't check head load. I think E is typically 1. It waits 15 milliseconds and then it checks the head load response. So in fact, there is a timeout here, which is pretty close to the 23 milliseconds it was missing. And if you look down at the bottom here, it says, if the clock is 1 megahertz, which is what it is on the Model 3, then it's a 30 millisecond timeout, which is even more than the 23. So that was the problem. I had ignored these head load timeouts. And so the TRS-80 GP was starting the write track a bit faster than the real hardware. So after all that, then it worked. I could finally get the PFS file format to work. I don't know what the original programmer was doing. I think I do know what they're doing. Like a lot of programming I do is like, well, it seems to be working, done. And they can't really see into the actual diskette. They must have known that track 0 wasn't good, but I think they told marketing that, well, you can't use track 0, so no big deal. And that was it. That was pretty exciting.
Has there been an emulator update release that covers this modification?
No, it'll be in the next version that gets released.
Okay.
So I'm actually, when I discovered this, that there are several other commands that have head load time, so I added them. And there's actually a couple other little timing things that I'd like to change. Like, although the flowchart says that if the disk is not ready, then it immediately stops the command. I think that's true, but in the actual hardware, there's at least some kind of delay here of a few microseconds. And if you don't emulate that delay properly, then the program might not think. It might constantly wait for the command to start, when in fact it won't see the command start. So
how have we gotten this far with such a great emulator and never having problems, if this was such a big part of a chunk of the flowchart?
It would just, well, I guess maybe two reasons. It really just alters the timing a little bit, and it wouldn't really be noticeable for ordinary operations. Second, it's a bug. They shouldn't be depending on this time being so precise. It just happens to be that way. And the FTC emulator is not, it's far from perfect. I mean, because I go by these flow charts, but I know these flow charts don't tell you the full story exactly, which is like the type 1 bug problem. And it may ultimately never be exactly like the real hardware, because whereas the chips in that and the CPU, they're running off a quartz clock. The floppy is actually, it's a variable rate thing. It's not going to be perfectly 300 RPM. And that's something that I've thought of emulating, but, one day. So that's a good point. I mean, when I started to think about this, that although the main processor is the most complicated part, the floppy disk system is probably its equal. It's kind of like the GPU of the 80s. It's quite a piece of work.
Peter, for the price I pay for TRS-80 GP, I expect perfection.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Thanks, Peter. That's awesome.
The other odd thing about the PFS file thing is it uses 512 byte sectors. So those guys were really going kind of off-road, that whole thing.
Well, PFS, you may recall, was sold on a number of different platforms, including the Apple II and the IBM PC. So maybe that was kind of a carryover from a port from another platform. They just kind of like, well, it was built on 512 sectors or 512 byte sectors. Let's just reuse that on the Trash 80 version. I'm just speculating there.
Well, it's all based on UCSD Pascal, Mav. So that version of it. So it may very well be hard baked into the driver software for the floppy disk controller for that particular version of UCSD Pascal. I'm not sure on the PFS version whose version it was. The only people that I know that made UCSD Pascal for the Model 3 was PCD Systems. So, and I haven't been able to find any PCD Systems tags in the disk at all. So, and there's I can't find any version of PCD Systems UCSD Pascal for the Model 3, 4. They did one for the 16 as well, and the Model 2. So until they turn up, we won't know. But I mean, the Model 1 version of it, done by FMG, used the standard DOS formatter. You had to format a disk in DOS before you initialized it in UCSD Pascal. So it's probably just a form of copy protection too.
It probably that's a side effect of it, that would have absolutely chuffed them at the time. Okay, where is Vernon? Hey, Vernon.
Hello.
How's your Model 4 going? You and Tim been making some inroads with it finally, I hear.
Yes. Well, first of all, I got a power supply. Well, my power supply went on my Model 4 in 2017, and I've been on the emulator since. And when I got a power supply in, I was having serious difficulties transferring programs from the emulator back to my real TRS-80. Tim gave me a GoTech, and once I got that working, it was a piece of cake. It was, no problem. After I got that, I started working on FreeHD, and I got it going with multi-DOS. And confirmed because Tim has a copy of it, and I've done it with a multi-DOS only. I've done it split multi-DOS and LS-DOS.
That's great. Good news. The community would love to hear that multi-DOS is working on it. So is that auto booting without a floppy disk? You just pick it up off the menu?
No, you need a boot floppy.
Yep.
Or, the one I sent him, and I'm pretty sure when I'm in LS-DOS, you can transfer over to multi-DOS from LS-DOS, a little utility that will transfer you from LS-DOS over to multi-DOS. I haven't written one that go from multi-DOS to LS-DOS yet. I looked in the last month of that month, it's probably since beginning of the year, I've looked into DOS Plus and new DOS 80, and I really can't figure out how those things work. I can see how DOS Plus works, but DOS Plus 4, that is, but I'm having so many problems getting that to just do simple things that I'm not sure it's worth getting DOS Plus 4 on the FreeHD.
Okay. Sounds like a fun project, and you're sort of chipping away at it, so I'm sure you'll get there.
I just want to say how cool it is that the developer of multi-DOS from back in the day is still working on it today and making it better.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool.
I'd tip my hat if I was wearing one. Yeah. That's great, Vernon. So that's what you've been working on. I'll have to procure a copy off either you or Tim to test run here. So I'm keen to see it running on the Fred. I've been waiting since 2013 to see it running, and I'm sure most people who all have fond memories of multi-DOS want to see it running. So that's great work. Good work, guys.
Well, the next thing I'm going to work on is taking another one, because these things are dirt cheap, and have Model 4 multi-DOS, Model 3 multi-DOS, and my esoteric, and have those be able to switch between them if you want to do that, because 42 meg is an awful lot of memory. I don't think anyone needs 42 meg in one operating system.
Yeah, and I used to be able to get 1 and 2 meg SD cards here, which I supplied with the Freds. Now all I can get is 32 meg, so it's kind of like, instead of 1% of the card being used, it's like 0.01% of the card being used now. But time marches on. That's great, mate. Tim Halloran.
Yeah, it's been exciting to work with Vernon, sending him stuff. It is funny that GoTech was, so useful. I kind of threw that in as an extra. It turned out that helped Vernon a lot. Yeah, I got a video here. I'll show my screen so folks can see what this looks like. Nope, not this one. This one. Share. Okay, let's see if it comes up. That's weird. You can see the background, but not the. All right.
It was showing full screen.
Was it showing? It wasn't showing my video though. Let's stop and do this again. trying to share the. Oh, maybe because I have to do this one.
It looked.
Do you see a screen that TRS-80 screen?
I can see your Model 4 there.
Yeah, then it's working. Okay, it just looks weird to me. Okay, I'll just play it and tell you what's going on. So one thing I will note ahead of time is if you notice the setup here, it's a little bit odd. If Patrick's still on, he recognizes it. This is one of Patrick's sleds. The Fred is in the upper part of the lower drive and there's a GoTech. Ignore the switch, but what that does is it lets you swap disk 0 and 1, so you can boot from the floppy or boot from the Fred, but it's booting from the, boot from the GoTech. So it's booting from the GoTech, and we'll see it come up. The focus is a little bit of a challenge. So it's doing a floppy boot into multi-DOS, and I'm just typing 12, 12, 12, 12. So what I started working on once Vernon got this going was the Fred utilities. So that's sort of what this is going to demo. I've updated the Fred utilities to sort of support that. So you can see the date is wrong, but now I'm going to fetch it from the Fred real-time clock. And you can see that now it's actually up to date. So I can also take a look at what's on my SD card. I have a little foo.txt. I can run the version. That's what's in that Model 4. We'll do import to, and I'll copy over the little text file that's on the SD card into multi-DOS on the hard drive. List that, and it just says contents are less than 256 bytes. I was testing sort of the logical record link and if it did the right thing, and you can see in the directory it's 33 bytes. So lastly, there's a very nice program on this multi-DOS hard disk that's the Zeus editor. So I'm gonna save a copy of Zeus to the SD card to sort of show the export. So I'm exporting the Zeus command, and then I'm going to I'll go ahead and take a look that it's actually there on the SD card. You can see it did copy it out. So I'll import it back in as another name. Notice all of this is running. There's no floppy disk in the system. This is all Fred going on multi-DOS in the Fred. It worked. It ran. I think that's all I got. So we're working on it. A lot of the stuff seems to be working. There's still a few. I haven't tested F update yet. That's been giving some headaches, which is updating the PIC on the Fred device. And I'm trying to get the code for these changes for multi-DOS and the Fred utilities out to Fred Verkoven has a GitHub about this. So I emailed him and he got back to me, and he was like very excited that multi-DOS was going to work. So this is great. I think we'll keep working on it and try and get the rest of it to work. And super big thanks to Vernon for putting the time in to really get this going. Very exciting.
Yeah,
That's
thanks to
great
both
work,
you guys.
Yep, nice work. I'm glad it's good when you guys can collaborate and come up with things. So yeah.
Will that also work on eventually on the Model 1, or is it going to be 3 and 4 only?
Vernon, any thoughts?
I can get it to work on the Model 1.
Okay.
So that was
my Model 1 is in pieces.
as is all our Model 1s. Unfortunately, they're like a classic car. They spend more time being worked on than being driven.
Didn't they come that way?
Yeah.
Tim, I think
so. Just a question.
USB power supply for his Model 1. Tim,
say that again, Peter.
Yeah, Vernon needs a USB power supply for his Model 1.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's my other project. That one's not going as well. Just a quick update on that. Folks have probably been following that. I've been super excited to try and I did work last year and showed it off at Tandy Assembly, if you were there, where we changed the Cocos 2 and 3 over to run on USB power. And I was really, my main focus when I started that project was to get the Model 1 running on USB power, because the bricks are hard to find. And sometimes people have Model 1s and they don't have those bricks. Ian has a great solution for this, but it's getting hard to even get the transformers you need to hook up to those things. Like I have one that's a board and I can't get the parts to put on it. So I looked into it and I did actually convert the Model 1 to a 5-volt system. So disconnected the power systems and made it only 5 volts. To make the problem simpler, I actually swapped out the memory to use 5-volt only memory. A normal Model 1 uses +5, -5, and 12 volts to run the memory. That's what most of the shenanigans in the power system is, to set up that. But you can actually switch it out and have 16K with just 5 volts. But the problem is the USB power is much noisier than the original power supplies. I've been delving into this a bit in depth. There's about a 30 millivolt point-to-point ripple noise on the original power supply, and the USB stuff, even the best I can do, is more like 70. So it's extremely much more noisy. And where you see this is the computer works perfectly fine. If you saw this thing, you'd go, wow, that looks great. It works fine. No problems. But what happens is you can actually see like jitter artifacts on the monitor, because this ends up in the timing of the video system to do that. And I don't know if there's a component that might be just old or something, but it's definitely related to the noisy power. So still a work in progress. I don't think this is like a real solution yet. I think it's still sort of a prototype that we'll keep going through. I'm hoping to get someone who's really good at EE more than me interested, that if we could filter out some of the noise, I suspect this would be a very useful, thing. It's super cheap. You take about 4 parts out of the Model 1 and hook up a power cord that costs about, total cost about $15. I use a Raspberry Pi power supply and just a handmade cable that's, a DIN in a thing that hooks up to the Raspberry Pi. That's it so far. So we'll see. It's
I do find it interesting what you're doing with the USB power supply. I think it's my understanding, you can correct me on this, it really only lends itself to powering the keyboard unit, because the expansion interface needs 12 volts for the floppy controller and serial if you've got them fitted. So it's good for powering the main unit, but it still needs a proper dual volt power supply for the expansion interface and everything.
Yeah, I don't have like all the parts on the expansion interface, but I think like right now that's true. Now on the Coco, they need those powers too. And I used a DC to DC converter to get 12 volts for the RS-232. But one of the problems with the expansion interfaces, they seem to be far trickier to get going. I've only got 2 of them, and one of them doesn't work. The other one is I did fix.
They're a pig of a design.
Yeah. So I would say there. This is I think I tend to agree with this. This would probably be more, if we can get it going, it immediately would be far more useful for the keyboard. I think the expansion interface is a whole nother project to try and figure out what to do there if it was worthwhile.
Sounds like we need to get Jay moving on that Model 1 power supply now that he's mastered the 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's hard.
You're muted, Jay. You're muted, Jay.
You're muted. Jay, you're
you're on mute.
There we go. Yeah. The problem is like Tim says, you can't get the transformers for that board.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to go and redesign that thing soon. I think with some different transformers, if they're going to.
DigiKey, Mauser, and Newark, all the 3 sources that I use. 00000.
And you can't use a Meanwell on this?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I haven't tried that. With my mods, you might be able to. I haven't tried that. I have one of Jay's Model 3 Meanwells. I did mean to experiment with that and see if it's clean enough to drive a Model 1. So if you did what I was doing, converting the board to be 5 volts only, and then used a Meanwell, it might be okay. I don't know what the ripple noise on a Meanwell is. I haven't measured it. So his changes seem to work great on Model 3s and 4s, that's for sure. In fact, both of the ones behind me are running off Jay's power supplies and they work great. So that could be a way forward, Ira. That's a good question.
Well, another thing you could do if you had a USB powered Model 1 is either the Quinterface or a Meyer to serve as your expansion interface, because those are 5-volt.
Yep.
That's true.
Right. Yep, that works. That works.
Like I said, I do have transformers on back order.
Yeah. I hope they come online soon, because some of the parts for the things that I make are starting to become obsolete, no longer produced, which is going to make things really interesting. Fred SD card sockets being the most recent one that's been discontinued, so that will be fun. And other common silicon chips that I use, some of them are being, the next production's not till 2023, so that's going to make a very interesting second half of this year. I tend to buy up parts in 6 month batches, what I'm predictive to use in 6 months, and but when some of the things I need are not going to be produced till March 2023, that takes a whole rethink of how I'm going to stock my part inventory. But yeah,
what are the Model 1 power bricks going for nowadays? Still around $40 or so?
40,
still
50
40 to
bucks.
50, yeah.
Mhm.
And they still come up regularly.
Are they repairable?
Well,
They're ugly once
think
they're
they are,
repaired.
but you'd have to take them apart, and to take them apart, you have to either use a Dremel or something, and then when you try to put them back together, I don't think it's going to look as nice.
Yeah, and you better hope that it's just the fuse, not the transformer, because I don't think you can get that transformer.
Just the fuse, they're usually repairable. I've had a few that like just don't work at all. I mean, maybe if you really got into it, but I don't think the transformer is very repairable.
The transformers fortunately are pretty robust. I've only ever seen one transformer fail. There's 2 diodes and a fuse in there, easy enough to replace. The trouble is that the sealed nature of the device means it looks like shit once it's repaired and put back together. So it's
some of the later ones are screwed together. You kind of have to look under the feet. I've got one that it comes apart like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the later ones like 79, 80. Some of them are screwed together cases.
I've never seen one.
Wow, that's nice.
And I found that out the hard way.
The one of mine
by breaking it open and
Right.
seeing the screws there.
Yeah, the one of mine that failed was screwed together, and I just had to replace the fuse. Works great again, but if that transformer ever goes out, I don't think there's a modern replacement.
Yeah,
there is. There's my power supply, except the blue transformers are hard to get. But anyway, Peter Bartlett.
Rewind it and repot it.
Yes. Peter Bartlett.
The question I have is, quite a few of us have 3D printers, and that casing is just plastic. With ABS, could you not reproduce those little boxes that go on top of the power supply? And just make one that screws in place and then crack them open and make a new box?
You know, the filament they make you print 3D stuff in, what sort of temperature can it handle? Those black bricks get incredibly hot.
That's exactly the question.
Yeah. Well, ABS can handle
ABS can handle a fair amount.
Okay.
I mean, standard PLA is 175 degrees.
Now you'd have to go to ABS definitely, at least.
Yeah.
That's 250, 265.
Something like that.
Mounted in the expansion interface in the middle of summer, 2 of those things can get pretty warm. That's the only thing. Yeah, those Tim, those bad boys.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, but if you make it slightly bigger, then you've got all the airspace. If you make a couple of slots on the side, let the air flow through it, you can make a new version of it where it would actually, not stay, hell, make one a tiny 5-volt fan in it. Jeez.
Yeah, having those things sealed airtight might have been a slight mistake.
You think?
Yeah, or
No,
a mistake on their part,
really?
designed to get them to sell more replacements. Yeah,
There you go.
that kind of mistake. we don't have Val and Peter, who's Val's better half?
Ken.
Yeah, Ken here to comment on Radio Shack's mindset, but they usually agree with me when I put forward theories like it was designed to sell more replacements.
Ken, where are you?
If anybody here wants to set one up as a liquid cooled, I think that would be a nice project to show off.
It would.
Tim, you got another job to do.
Yeah. All right, who's next? Bartlett Labs.
Yeah, well, it's been an eventful month, but not in a good way. Since my house almost burned down, and that one terrible day, December 30th of last year, 1,000 houses near here burned down in one day.
Are you in Colorado?
Yeah.
Ah.
And so the fire that was right next to my house was different than the one that burned down the 1,000 houses. But it was right at the end of my road, and we had to evacuate. And there were hurricane force winds that, my wife and I pulled off our cars off the side of the road to talk to each other after we got a little ways away, and it nearly blew the doors off our cars.
Jeez.
We got thousands of dollars of repairs to be done to our cars. So, as far as TRS-80 stuff, it hasn't been the most eventful time. The sales are finally starting to pick back up, but that means I got to build more stuff, which, has been alluded to. There are supply problems for parts, components, and, I'm doing the best I can. Every time I buy what I think is a lifetime supply of connectors or some component, it turns out not to be a lifetime supply.
No, and in some cases, a pathetically short lifetime supply.
Yeah, people just keep buying stuff.
Yeah.
We're just glad you and your family are all right, Peter.
Yeah, we and a lot of people aren't. And it's almost impossible to comprehend that level of destruction. It really is. Over
and the random nature of it. I mean, we have fires regularly here in Australia. You occasionally see them on the news in the United States, and then you look at the fire field where it was, and they'll take a bunch of houses, but literally not take one in the middle. The wind will blow it away for some reason, and just lucky people like yourself manage to not lose their house amongst 20 others that.
Yeah, I mean, during the 2020 fires, we get them here a lot. Okay, my neighbor Pat, who's a CEO of a company, and I just stood in the field near my house and just watched multi-million-dollar mansions go up in flames. It's there, but for the grace of God, go I suppose.
Yeah. Why does it happen in winter? Why is it happening in winter there, Peter?
Well, this winter we've had a fair amount of snow recently, which is a blessing because it keeps the trees from igniting. But what generally causes the problems is these high winds. Hurricane force winds nearly tore the doors off of mine and my wife's cars.
Yeah,
as I said.
Yeah, I'm not being silly. I'm just saying, because we have them here in summer when it gets to 120 degrees and windy, and then all it takes is one lightning strike and the whole forest goes up.
Yeah,
so,
oddly here, they mostly seem to happen during the winter, which makes no sense. I know, but that's the way it is. And I've lived through, I don't know how many of these fires, but I still love living here. It's my place,
Yeah.
So as far as TRS-80 stuff, I haven't been doing a lot. I've been building and selling as fast as I can. I'm glad I don't have any kind of e-commerce set up on my website because, there's no way I can just, I don't have a stockpile of these units that I can just send out. I kind of, not exactly, but almost build them to order.
Yeah, I tried at various times to stockpile things and try to set up an e-commerce arrangement for quick turnaround and everything, but I actually found that I'd still end up with empty shelves fairly quickly, and so the majority of the stuff I do gets done built late at night, to order as required.
And my main disappointment, and I've talked to you guys about this stuff before, is I have these 2 prototypes that I think people would really like if I could ever get them released. One for the Coco 1, 2, and 3 that gives it hard drives, Ethernet, and a whole bunch of other stuff, real-time clock and all that stuff. The prototype's done. I think I've showed it to you before. And then the other one is a replacement for the compact flash adapter that comes with Mi's and Mi's, the expansion devices for the Model 1 and the Model 3, which changes from compact flash to SD plus wireless using an ESP32, which I think you guys mostly have heard about what that is. And the hardware's done. It's just, the flesh is weak to convert the software, because that's just no fun. And so, that I suppose is my goal for this year, because it's been 3 years since I've literally touched either of those prototypes. And that's my goal, is to finish them up and to get them working, turn them into actual products. And, I think that they will be well accepted. The Coco one is well, I'll show you.
I know. Oh, I hope they're a success as well. You spend enough time building stuff at the moment. Imagine if these are.
One moment.
Okay. While
so that doesn't fit in a Coco cartridge. It doesn't. Yeah, it's got the floppy drive controller right there. Well, the floppy drive controller is in the FPGA, but there's the VGA, there's the FPGA.
Could fit inside a disused or broken multi-pack interface,
That's not going to fit. So I don't know what the physical form of it's going to be. So and like with the Mi's, when I first came up with that, there's going to be stuff left out because it probably just isn't of that much interest to many people.
Okay, we have it ready in time for Tandy assembly.
Yeah, I've had it ready in time for the last 3 Tandy assemblies.
Okay, I want to see it working. I want to see it working there when I'm there, so I can rib you about it.
Yeah, I just that's what I have not been working on.
If nothing else, Peter, give Mav a rigged demo.
A what? A what?
A rigged demo, rigged demonstration. Just.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm not going to show him the truth.
Peter, I told you before that Coco Mize will be a huge hit. I guarantee you.
Yeah, and I'm not going to name names. You know who Grumpy X is. Keeps trying to get me to just isolate just isolate the VGA thing because he thinks that's a product on its own. Hooking a Coco up to VGA is pretty cool, and that's been working for 3 years now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not perfect because it doesn't have access to vertical sync, and so I've identified 2 games that don't work properly with it because they're drawing during the vertical blanking time, and so they're kind of jittery. One is Crush, Crumble, and Chomp, and the other is Slinkster. But Grumpy X is still of the opinion that the VGA part of this thing alone would be a viable product, and maybe he's right. He's more in contact with the Coco community than I am. I'm sort of a Coco outsider looking in.
That's how I prefer to be.
Yeah, it's kind of the only way I work, I guess.
We need to get Grumpy X on these calls.
Yeah.
Well, we did a couple months ago.
And he was grumpy.
But this one snuck up on me. I just asked you for the link, a couple minutes before it started.
All of us are grumpy.
At various times, yeah.
I don't want to say someone's name who's not here. Maybe he wouldn't mind it. Maybe he would. I don't know.
Who, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I'll say it. He can come and complain to me if he doesn't like it. My podcast. All right.
Malcolm was my first paying customer for the first mice I ever sold. There were units out in the field for beta test, but he was the first paying customer, and he and I, we go to these shows and we set up our joint booth, and he has a lot more tonnage of TRS-80 stuff than I do. And every year he goes back home with even more tonnage. He just packs his vehicle with stuff that he buys.
Oh yeah, he can Tetris that vehicle to the max. that guy. All right, thanks, Peter. Hey, Peter Satinsky, any Tandy Assembly report?
It's on schedule. Tandy Assembly, we have it to the point now where it pretty much runs itself.
All we got to do is wait it out.
It's got to wait it out. Once we get the place, the reservation's done and the place is reserved, everything is just as easy from there. We have
Springfield again.
Springfield again, same place.
Same place. Like I've said to as a few people know, I'm going traveling again in around a month's time. So hopefully that will convince me that international travel is back to something doable. I'm planning to be there. So bring it on.
When are reservations going to be available for rooms?
I'll let you know when we have our first meeting in a week, month or so.
I think last year everybody was kind of surprised at, given that the reduced amount of people coming in, that still the rooms ran out fairly quick.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a mess. We had to fine tune that. That's one of our goals for this year, is to make that more seamless and easy and transparent.
Did the courtyard not really believe how many people we're likely to get? Is that the main problem? Because obviously when they put rooms aside for us, they must have some algorithm in mind as to how many are likely to be hired.
Yeah.
That last time there seemed to be other events going on, like weddings and stuff.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
There was a birthday party next door, and I think there was a lot of guests that stayed over.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to call the hotel itself to get the reservation. I couldn't do it online.
Yeah, the same for me. I had to call the hotel directly because the website just said nope.
Yep.
I think it'll be less likely we'll have that issue because we're going to. This past year we had a smaller space, so they had space they could rent out. But I think we plan on having all 3 ballrooms this year, so less likely there will be a conflict with other events.
I'll probably have to.
Are you going to follow the format we had where the smaller ballroom was used for the lectures?
I think we're going to have it all open. It'll just be larger than this past year. We really like the open format.
Yeah, it was nice. I liked it. I think it was nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to call them to make my booking. I can tell because the online booking never works for me. Calling them is always amusing because they say, "Can you repeat what you said, sir?" I can't understand you, sir.
Call the local hotel. Don't go through the corporate number. Try to get
when I called the hotel, they still didn't even know what the Tandy convention was. I mean, the Tandy Assembly was. I had to say it was a computer club meeting, and they didn't understand what the Tandy Assembly was. So
they told me, "Okay, you're one of the computer people, right?"
That's basically what they said.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I had to go to the actual manager of the hotel, and she's the one who knew what it was, but everybody else didn't know.
Yeah.
So one comment on Tandy Assembly while we're still on that is that the on-site meals were very much appreciated because, as you guys know, to go get a meal in Springfield, Ohio, you got to drive a ways. And, you don't want to miss a minute of your setup time or your show time. And so, that helped a lot. Just a comment.
Are you talking
The
about
other
the
thing
places?
that would be nice is if we could get the adjacent days also on the same discount.
Yeah, that's
Booking was a
I got it.
nightmare
yeah.
without
paid
that.
Sunday night cost a mint.
It didn't to me. I got an extra night. They charged me the same rate, 119.
Well,
Same here. I just
They
asked
didn't-
nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't until they realized they had to kick me out of my room.
By the way, those meals, they're not cheap. So it really requires us to have a strong attendance at the tech track. You know, we have the additional fee. Part of that covers that
And
meal.
and strong sponsor support.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yes.
There will once again be strong sponsor support, at least as in my part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very much appreciated.
And
I'll
we
do what
need
you
to
do.
decide what the Thursday outing will be.
Yeah,
All right.
the museum was awesome.
Yes.
That's
Cool.
an unofficial event. So
Yeah. Nice beard, by the way, Peter.
Which Peter? We have a lot of Peters.
And they both have beards.
Peter Satinsky. It's
The black and white guy.
looking more and more each day like that guy from the Big Bang Theory, the geologist.
Oh, Bert.
Bert, yeah.
it's back to the Tandy assembly length, just about, I think.
Okay. All right. Dusty. G'day, mate.
Dusty,
keep
wake
it-
up.
We keeping you up, Dusty? Yeah, you're muted. Yeah. Unmute yourself. M-U-T-E, mute.
He always sounds
Mr.
like that.
Dusty, come in, please.
He always sounds like that.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know if he goes.
Right. Sorry about that.
There it
There
is.
we go.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good morning.
There we go. Good morning. No, it's not actually. It's 11:15. So it's a brilliant time. This one. Thank you all very much. It is appreciated. But yeah, I've tried to get as many UK participants, but I don't think I've achieved very much. But anyway, very quickly, can I just remind everybody, please, if you're getting an item in for TRS 8-bit, got to have it by the end of Feb, please. I've already had 3 items, and it turns out with this brilliant idea of George's for a competition, we've actually got what could be the actual first entry. It's a one-liner from good old ET, my old pal, and I'm not going to give the details because you're going to have to wait till March, but it's a brilliant idea. And if we can have either assembler or basic or Pascal or anything really, that would be absolutely brilliant, I think. Right, a couple of quickies. If you recall, months ago, I bought a load of old TRS-80 junk off somebody who lived a few miles away, and I'm slowly going through it while Dee's not watching. I'm opening another box, you know. I thought, oh, that's been there for ages, Dee. You know, you're all right. And I came across some manuals, which I don't know if you'll be interested in, but I thought if Ira wants them, I'll send him off a PDF copy. The first, I think they're more UK based, but I've got, can you see that? Yeah, it's an Aculab interface for a 735 IBM printer. It's the manual for it. I don't know if that's any use to anybody. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. I also have acquired, which I'm quite thrilled with, a very early copy of the Zen editor assemble by John Hawthorne and then by Laurie Shields, who sort of went on to develop this from Zen 3 right up to Zen 5 and CPM and all the rest of it. I think that's, if anybody wants a copy again, I can do it. There was also some software, which is quite rare, so I never came across it in the day. It was from what was Harding's or Mollymerks as they later became, and it's a disk program called Disk Directory. Also, we've got from Kansas City Systems, which are a big firm based in Yorkshire in the UK. In the day, they were quite big. This was called the A-Trace instruction set. We've got also the Kansas City Editor Assembler Manual, and also a Mark I of that, which is there. And also the final bit was from the American system, Small System Software. It was a disk conversion program, either one. I don't know if it's rare. I can't remember seeing it in the day, but again, if anybody wants it, I'll send it off to Ira and you can sort it from there. Finally, has anybody had any knowledge or use of a piece of software by Dave Dunfield from quite a while ago called Image Disk? I came across it, and I eventually got my IBM XT working with a 5 1/4, a 3 1/2, and a compact flash. So I'm hoping to have a play with that. And I've been quite busy, haven't I? And also, at long last, my grease weasels arrived. So it looks a bit complicated. But anyway, I'm quite looking forward to having a play with that. So again, if anybody's got anything about any sort of experience with disk image, I'd love to hear any clues, any ideas, something like that.
Image disk? I use image disk all the time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, good.
Yeah. That I'm curious, that Kansas City assembler, I've never seen that before. Do you have the software?
I've actually hang on. The nice thing about it, well, I think it is, it's got loads of notes that the guy had written on it. But you can see that, can you? Is that clear enough? Yeah, yeah. It's just sort of it's a bog standard sort of thing, I think, right? And it's written by a guy called Mike Chalk, and I often wondered if this was Laurie Shields in another name, because he lived quite near to that place, and I was hoping I could get Laurie on tonight, but he's obviously not been able to make it. I think I've got a copy of the software somewhere, but as I say, I've got boxes and boxes that are discreetly hidden. I have to swap one with another. Yeah, when she goes out with the dog, I can quickly nip upstairs, swap 2 boxes, and it's nothing's changed there, has it? You know?
So she thinks you only got 1 box, but you all
4, I think. Yeah.
Mike Chalk wrote a lot of games under the label Kansas Software.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in the sort of very early 80s, it was a very big, for the UK. I mean, it was quite a big and profitable firm. But once the Model 1 sort of died, they went for a bit for the 3s and the 4, but it really had started to peter out. And it was the same happened to Molly Merckx, so Hardings. They were the only person in the UK that supplied Model 1 software for quite a while, and then so lots of other firms came along, and they tried to join in the BBC computers, but again they'd left that too late. I think by the sort of 83-4, it was obvious, I think, to most people that PCs were going to be the way forward, and as you know, that's what happened. Yeah.
From what I can see, that editor assembler for Kansas is tape-based. Is that what the instructions seem to indicate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe there was a disc version.
Oh.
But again, I've got so much stuff to wade through.
Have you seen it before, Ira?
Yes. The tape was given to me by somebody. And I've got a tape version of instructions, but I wasn't the original source for that, and so I'd be very interested in seeing what Dusty has and comparing them.
Okay. Right, I'll get them PDF'd, and I'll email them to you then, Ira. Right. And then, as I say, anything you don't want, you can just link. It's easy enough to deal with. Yeah, no problems there.
Thanks, Dusty. So anyone's got an article for the next issue? Tim Halloran? USB power supply. Please, Vernon Hester, multi-DOS on the Fred. Let's see, who else am I going to point the finger at? All right, looking like we've got about half an hour, 35 odd minutes left. So who else got something they want to talk or bring up? Shout out your name.
Me.
Jay Newworth. Hey, mate.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, well, I made my trip down to North Carolina, met Barbara, and I picked up the TRS-80 stuff she had. I was kind of a little disappointed because it wasn't a lot of TRS-80 stuff. She basically had 4 boxes of just nothing but cables. I mean, this guy had every possible cable you could think of. So what I ended up bringing back is a Model 4 gate array. I've had a chance to put on the bench. One of the floppies isn't working. Everything else seems to be working. I have a Coco 3, which I don't know the condition of because I have no way of testing it. A Model 1 16K level 2, just the computer. I don't have a video, a monitor or anything, so I can't test that. And some odds and ends of Ian, some of his cards, some manuals, and some books. And I'm basically going to go through them all, take pictures, and then make a list of what I have. And if anybody wants to donate some money to her for something, I know the Coco 3 I don't want. I mean, I have no need for it. So if anybody out there,
That's a pretty desirable computer, though, Jay.
yes, that's what I understand. So I don't, in discussing it with her, she kind of understands that she might not get any money out of this, but I said, I really was going to take most of the stuff to Tandy Assembly and just, let people do what they want with it there. Maybe put a table up or something. I'll buy an extra table. And keep it separate from the auction so that she can get some money back. So that's where I am with that. Other than that, the power supplies are selling. But the problem is I'm running into the problem that everybody else is. The Newelsa power supplies are not available. I can't get any of them. And if I can get them, you're talking about 3 months before they come in stock. So I got enough to make a couple more boards. Model 3s aren't selling. I don't know why, but the 4s and the 4Ps, I just got orders the other day for a 4P and 2 Model 4s. And but the Model 3s, I think Tim is one of the few people that bought them. So
they'll sell because it's just things go ebb and flow.
I got a quick question for Patrick. Patrick, whatever happened with your boxes, your shipping box project?
Well, we got one box completely redone. They were supposed to send it to me. My brother's supposed to send it to me. And then COVID happened. And COVID made UPS or USPS decide that a box of even that it's folded. I mean, I have I don't have the picture here. There's a picture that I could show, and I think I've shown it before. My brother, the entire packaging is made into a box. I mean, it's the full size, so it's 27 inches tall by whatever one side of the box, and it all self-folds on itself with the foams and everything inside of it. That package right now costs $254 to ship from Montreal to Texas.
Oh wow!
That's just the cardboard.
Yeah.
So time for a road trip then?
Yeah, I wish. But yeah, no, that's been put on hold. My brother says, well, I've got the plans and all that, but unless I buy an order, I don't own the plans. Therefore, I have to wait. So this is another thing with the corporate. I was talking that maybe try to buy this purchase, and he can hold on to it.
Is there a possibility maybe you can find somebody in the United States who might be able to have them manufactured?
Actually, what I'm trying to do is I know somebody in Ontario that deals. He's a stockbroker. He crosses the border all the time himself. And I was trying to get in contact with him, but with COVID, it's been kind of flaky. I'm trying to get it shipped to it's Toronto, basically from Montreal, and that would cost like $50. And then having him drive across the border and then mail it to me.
Okay.
They get the first sample to see what does it work, does it not work? But I sent them an entire box that had the foams and everything, and he supposedly replicated the box.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I can't afford the $250 for one box shipping. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, Jay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Don't forget about your new badges.
Oh, yeah. A guy by the name of Nathan DeSalis had emailed me a couple of weeks ago about Model 2 badges for the keyboard. And I was a little hesitant to do it. So I put a Facebook post out there and said how many people would be interested in Model 2s. And I got Pete, I think, said so. Eric said so. A couple other people said so. So I ordered 10 of them and they went in 3 days. So I'm making another 10 now. I put the order in last night. So anybody who wants Model 2 and Nathan got his, and I don't know how to share, but he put on his Model 2 keyboard and he says it's the best looking badge he's ever seen for a keyboard. So it really looks nice. I even was able to make the letter, the numbers, the two, instead of two eyes, they even got the little crossbars on the top and the bottom. It's not very noticeable, but you can see it. But he was just ecstatic. He said they're the best looking badges he's ever seen. So I've got 10 more coming in, and if anybody wants to order them, just contact me at my website or on my email.
I'd like to point out that Jay, without cost, sent me a bunch of M3SE Mies badges, which I've been sending one out with every purchase, but I've got like one left, I think.
You want me to get you some more? I'll be more than happy to.
There's no need.
Okay.
It's just that little something extra that people like to get when they buy something.
Yeah.
What meanwhile supply are you looking for, Jay?
Right now I cannot get RT65Bs for the Model 4. I've got 15 in stock, but they're back ordered. And then for the Model 3, that's the RT50B, and my three main sources are again 0, 0, and 0. The Model 4 also uses a small 12-volt one that's a little small black, that's the 12-volt line. I was able to get 13 of those.
TRC Electronics has 180 65Bs.
Oh, they must have just got him in. All right, because the last time I checked, that's who I buy from. They didn't have any in stock, and they usually call me because I'm a very good customer of theirs. So I'll check them out.
Cool. Okay. Nice one, Jay. Who's next? Shout out a name.
Joel.
I'll go.
John.
Yay. So I haven't been doing much, but I've been piling stuff on my to-do list. I found online a place that would sell cap kits for my 100. And I haven't done anything to my 100. And I've heard all the, scary tales of, whoa, your caps are going to leak. And if it etches the board, you're doomed. And, of course, it needs the replacement, rechargeable battery pack. So I got that. And that's now been added to my project list. I'm going to have to sit down. I got to say, though, I was surprised how easy it was to take my 100 apart. I pulled it apart to kind of clean things up a little bit and whatnot. I was like, wow, all right, this is all right to get into. And while I was looking around at that, I found another refurbished kit for this guy. This isn't Tandy, but this is an old Lynx Atari handheld. And apparently their power regulators go out a lot and then fry the main CPU. So I ordered a kit for it as well, but then found out that the let's see, it comes with a Zener and a MOSFET. I think the MOSFET is surface mount, which kind of freaks me out because I've never done surface mount anything before, and I don't have a hot plate or a hot gun or anything. So now I got to figure out, it's like, well, dang, what, what am I going to do about that? I don't want to screw up my links. So.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of people here, I think, that can help with that. And, I'll be glad to, because, at the end of the day, it's not that hard to do.
Well,
The right equipment
yeah,
is probably
it's just,
positively
it's
easy.
more about, I've never tried and I don't have any experience. I mean, through the hole, I'm very comfortable with. That's super easy. I got the tools, right? But, if you don't have the tools and you've never tried it before, and it's a thing like my links where, you can't get a whole lot of those. I mean, that's my original links that I bought back in the day, and I don't want to screw it up. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that is, but
Oh, it's a handheld gaming device.
Color.
Yeah.
So what's like the lead spacing on that? I mean, it's.
Oh, on the, well, we can talk offline. I don't want to derail.
All right. All right.
But yeah, I was surprised at how many different little tweaks the Atari community had come up with. They have flash carts now that you can get, that you pop the SD card in and load up how many ever ROMs that you've got and stuff. I've been tinkering around with that. That was pretty neat.
I'll have to
stay tuned for the Atari podcast, which precedes this one.
Oh, I didn't know. I've been just hanging out on the Atari Age Discord.
Okay, that's cool. All right, hey John, you coming to Tandy Assembly?
I'm thinking about it. I had a blast when I went last time. So
make it so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm kind of waiting for Peter to get everything all lined up, and then I'll start looking at airline and.
You can pretty much start the bones of the event are already set. So you can, and the date is extremely unlikely to change. So you can start working on flights and stuff.
First weekend in October.
It
So
seems
that's
like
that's set with the hotel. We're.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought it was still being negotiated. I
Wow.
misunderstood, obviously.
it seems like no one has died from COVID from our maskless Tandy assembly last year.
Not that I'm aware of.
There's only 7 people there.
Yeah.
That was more than 7 people there.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, John. Let's see who's next. Canute Roland. Hello. Hey, mate.
Yeah.
What up?
I haven't done very much lately, but TRS-80. I've been working a little bit on my Genie emulator.
Okay. How's that coming along?
Well, it doesn't do LDOS yet for some reason.
Okay.
Something wrong
LDOS
with-
isn't very popular. It doesn't matter.
Does it do multi-DOS?
I haven't tried, but it does actually do DOS plus.
Okay.
That's good. I can't really work out why it would work one on one and not the other, but
There's something they do with the floppy controller that my emulator doesn't understand.
okay, cool. So that's pretty much what you've been doing. Keep them warm.
We're actually working with the cassette interface, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, keeping warm. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Thanks for joining
Actually,
us again.
electricity has been extremely expensive.
Electricity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have electric heating.
Yep. Well, it's always good to have you join us, Canute. And
Well, you don't have too many 8-inch systems.
yeah, you can just run them and not the heater. All right. Thanks, mate. Who's next? Patrick Burrell. Or not? Paul
Burrell?
Metcalf. Patrick Burrell. Okay.
Bureau. It's not an A, it's a U.
Are you stuck in an oil pipeline pipe, Patrick?
You hear me?
I can hear you.
We can in the loosest sense of the word.
I'll just pass that.
No video.
Yeah, it must go with the name because Patrick Bureau's audio is tinny as well. Yeah. We'll come back to you, Patrick. Let's go to Paul Metcalf.
Messing up his last name is going to become a hobby.
Yeah.
Not much TRS-80 to report for me. Battling a snowstorm right now that's battering the east coast of the United States. We got about.
I saw it on the news this morning. It looked amazing.
Yeah,
unless you got to drive in it.
No, spent the whole day at home. They've pretty much called it. So stay off the roads, they said. So.
Yeah.
Where are you up? Where are you on the East Coast?
New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, you got walloped.
Yeah, about 8 inches here so far. Not much. Is it more? Oh, I'm being told that we've got more. I haven't looked out the window in 2 hours. So.
Is it really windy up there too?
Yeah, it's well, we call it a nor'easter up here, but it's basically a winter hurricane. So.
Yeah, we bypassed it this year.
Yeah, this is the first, good sized storm we've had this winter. So I'm pretty lucky where it hasn't been a lot of snow up until today. But yeah, I've been also playing with an Atari lately. My old 130XE, getting that going again, and trying to get the old 1050 disk drive to work again. Those of you that know Ataris know that lots of failures in these things as they get old. Other than that, not much new.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for joining us again. Look after yourself, okay?
Yep, we'll do.
All right. Joel.
Hey, awesome. Is my new headset working? Nice.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh man, got multiple projects. You can't see this one because I can't get the camera far back enough, but it's a Model 3 and it's got Jay's power supplies in it, and I got his cables in, so got to put those in and do the alignment, or I'm thinking now track 0. I think both these drives are new old stocks. What are they called? Oh, I forget what the name was.
Texas.
I basically just pulled them out of their styrofoam and plastic.
They look like an MPI.
Or Texas peripheral.
Magnetic peripheral zinc.
Oh, magnetic.
MPI,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so brand new old stock, and after giving them a little bit of lube and cleaning the heads, they tend to try to read a disc for moments, but these two seem to just bang at the front. They'll read the disc, they'll boot into a Model 3 DOS, but then if I go to do a DIR or anything, it just comes forward, just bangs on the head, and I'm like, someone I think mentioned that's track 0. And I think it's just, these were out in a warehouse. They were in a giant 4-foot by 4-foot box that had 2 other giant 4-foot by 4-foot boxes on top of it. And I actually had peeked in and looked and saw 10 or 12 of these sitting back there in the styrofoam. I'm like, I don't know what they are, but I'm taking them. So grab them back.
Sure, your disc controller's okay?
Yes. Yeah. I actually took drives out of a working system and tested it and made sure, and it seems to be fine. So
okay.
Definitely just something with the drives, and I have 2 more of these that I did, and I put them in an MD3, and they also had issues. The MD3 though doesn't seem to care a whole lot about what's on its disk and how the software works. It seems to be less stringent, and they seem to work. And they just took a cleaning and a lubrication and worked. But yeah, and then I pulled my Model 4 or Model 4P out last night, and I don't know what happened. I don't know where, but there's soda in my keyboard. And it was inside of the system. So I don't know if my kids spilt something, didn't say anything to me or something. I don't know. But luckily,
admit it.
Do what?
They'll never admit it. So.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they won't. But yeah, I'm letting it soak right now in some soapy water. Luckily, it's just in the keys. I've tested the keyboard. It was powered up earlier. It seems to work fine, but I'll be playing with that here in a minute. Got the imaging station set up on the right over here, so now I don't have to pull things out and set it all up when I want to capture a disk image. Although I still got to get my 8-inch drives going. When I get those going, I can start imaging stuff for the IBM and for the bigger Tandies. But then, yeah, just getting these shells put into place and getting things back here and out of storage, putting that money back in my pocket, man. Tired of paying money to have a collection. It's ridiculous. I've already paid enough money trying to get the collection. Why do I gotta pay a bunch of money just to hold it? That's ridiculous. So yeah, get my space going.
That's the one thing my wife will not let me do. She will not let me have a storage unit. She puts a down on that.
I didn't want to do it.
Wait a minute, you've got a storage unit. It's that beautiful truck you just got.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The mobile Tandy assembly vehicle.
Right. I didn't want to get a storage unit, but we had someone move in and they needed a room, so I had to get this out of here. But yeah, it's all back. And then lastly, yeah, no, you mentioned at the beginning of about the Tandy 2000 running Windows 1, and I don't know if anybody's seen it. I did the little story on my website on the Tandy 2000 HD that I put back together, and the hard drive image that it came with, which actually has Windows 104. I don't ever recall seeing a disk from Tandy for 104. So whoever this was, I think they were upgrading the Windows after the fact, because I think Tandy only had a 101 disk. But it's also got some dev stuff on here from a couple of the big names that did the Windows expansion packs for I call them expansion packs or entertainment packs, I think, for Windows 1, like Ski Free, all those games. So the guys that worked on that, the guys that worked on the original Solitaire, West Cherry, David, no, I get his name wrong. He did chess, and he did, I think he still does chess, and he did the other game for Microsoft, Tepe, or I can't say it right. I never say the name right. But anyways, yeah, I discovered a bunch of software on it, and I put it up on my page. I don't have it pulled up here to share or anything, but I'll drop it in the chat and whatnot. But it runs Windows 104. It's actually up there in the top of the shelf there, all working. It's pretty nice. It's got an old copy of DR Draw on it, which I've not seen DR Draw appear on eBay. So nice. I got Graph here somewhere that I need to image and get it up. We'll actually have that because it's not on the archive as well. But yeah, just tons of things going on. Got those, what do you call it? I went and grabbed this earlier just so I could show it. But got the Network 3 disk images up, and I was curious. I dropped those in the Discord if anybody was able to look at them and maybe see. I only got a single bad sector read on track or cylinder 31. All the other sectors and cylinders seem to come up. The disks seem to read and boot. I was able to start host. I was able to boot the Model 3 disk image. So I'm just curious. There's HFE images and IMD images that I uploaded. So if anybody gets a chance to look at those, and maybe I'm not a floppy guy. I'm still learning about that, right? You know, the details on it. So if you are familiar with that stuff or can take a look at those, maybe analyze them, see that I've got a good read on them. I'm not sure. But so far, they seem good.
I'm going to get you one of those Network 3s I have here.
Yeah.
I want to sell to you.
Man, I can't wait. I want to try to set it up. It's going to be really cool because I think I have enough systems to do it now.
I got a white one and a silver one. Do you have a preference?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because
Nope.
I'm not in any place right now to start playing with them, and it sounds like you are. So we got to get one to you. So we'll work it out.
Woohoo. Awesome. Thank you.
Sounds good.
But yeah,
Good
that's
on you, Joel.
in a nutshell.
Thanks.
Hey, Joel,
All right.
real quick. Rob Carnegie is putting a message down that he wants to know, is that an IBM RT PC behind you?
I wish. Above my head in the
Okay,
queue.
well,
IBM. No, I wish. That's just an AT 5170. I tried to get an RT PC from somebody, and the deal ended up going sour because I guess he was in the middle of moving across the United States at the same time. And I almost had him though. I almost had, I think, 2 monitors, 2 systems, keyboards, mice, I think mice, other stuff. He was all going to throw it on a pallet for me, but it didn't work out. I wish.
Joel, are they really that rare? It sounds like they are. And the reason why I asked you about it is I had one back when they were new, and thought I'd like to find one again. And so far I haven't seen any sign of somebody knowing about them.
I personally look for the RT 6150s, the 61 series. They look just like the IBM 5160s and the 5150s. They got that same bubbly look, but I never see them. I don't ever see them come up. This guy had actually reached out on Facebook and he had just posted that he had them he was emptying a warehouse and was unloading a truck or something. And I was like, hey, those are RTs. And yeah, but they were in terrible shape. They would have taken a lot of work, but I just don't see them come up that often.
Yeah. The one that I didn't have a lot of experience with, but the one that we had looked exactly like IBM PC-AT in a similar looking box, but it was noticeably heavier when you went to pick it up. And we didn't have a graphics display for it because we just use it as our UU host on our mainframe network. I always liked the machine and thought I'd like to find one again someday, and they just don't seem to exist anymore.
If you want to torture yourself, there's a guy on YouTube. He uploaded a video they've got a very pristine one set up and running, and he boots it up and gets Unix going, and he gets another system actually connected to it. I'm just like, I sit and watch that video, and I'm like, oh, fuck, can I find one of these? They're so cool. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how's the floor holding out?
It stopped creaking for now. Well, I've got some bad wood that always creaks when I walk over here by the door, but I stopped hearing settling, thankfully. And I've got everything along. So like downstairs, only on my left here is the only thing that's not supported by a wall. It's just like an open vaulted ceiling that comes up. And so this wall, and this wall, that's an exterior wall, that's an exterior wall. So I'm good as long as I stay along them. So when I go into the attic, I can go in the attic on the other side over here, and I can see the unfinished area. The beams are, I want to say they're a foot. So the beams between floors are like a foot long and probably, I don't know, at least an inch or two thick. So I think I've got good stability and support. Your standard room is what, 40 pounds per square foot? I'm probably approaching it pretty closely, if not exceeding it.
Being killed by falling TRS-80s would certainly be unique.
My next step is anchors. I close the door. I don't let anybody in here when I'm not in here. I don't want any of the dogs to be underneath in case one of these shells does give. That's my main concern. So my wife brought it up. She's like, did you anchor those? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it'd probably be a good idea to stud them in at least one place on each shelf, stud it to the wall. Cause I don't plan to move those. I have a software shelf that'll come in over here on the right where it will roll, but these are all on wheels, so I can move them easy. But yeah, I'm gonna anchor them down, for safety. And yeah, so far no more settling.
You're not an earthquake country, are you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've been here 38 years. I think I've not had one. Not that I've experienced. I think we have had one, but it was so minimal. Like none of us even noticed. They were just on the news. Did you know we had an earthquake? And everybody was like, what? Yeah, I don't think we've had one in a while, thankfully. But yeah, anchors, for that. If we do have one, I'll need them for that.
Cool. Okay, Joel, thanks for that. Have I forgotten anyone?
I could go.
Craig Skeels, hey, go on, mate.
Doing okay. I usually watch this and, don't really have anything to share, but yeah, I've made a few acquisitions. I've owned my Model 1s for many years and acquired a Model 3 and a couple Model 4s. And then I got myself my first oscilloscope so I can start working on them. I got a grease weasel and GoTech and copied out all my library of software, and I was kind of hoping to show a little of my old software that I wrote, but the machine that I have all that on broke down, so I'm going to have to take the drive out and get that back off of it, or redo the grease weasel effort. And we had to repipe our house, so I had to move all my stuff out into corners of my house. So I really haven't been able to work on it lately, and but I have a lot that I want to do and fix up. And one of my projects is I'm trying to create a handmade Model 1 part by part. I've made a keyboard and some of the insides around the Z80, but don't really have anything demonstratable yet. So, but I just wanted to join because I haven't actually joined since I think like April last year, March or somewhere in there.
Right.
Welcome and keep joining.
Well, good to see you back. And yeah, we're back every month for people who don't realize we do this monthly. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Craig. Quinnan.
I didn't have anything this month.
Okay, thanks, Quentin. No worries. Talk to you next month. Rob Carnegie, how's Canada?
Well, we've had our natural disasters too. So you might recall that I run a open machine format retro computer club out in Chilliwack, and it's the only one in Western Canada. We had to shut down due to COVID, and we started up again last October, I think it was. We had 2 meetings, and then we had a flood where a large area of the Fraser Valley that decades ago was a lake. They drained it, and the people have been farming in it for almost a generation. And couple of weeks into November, a river jumped its banks in Washington State, and like all crazy mobs, it headed straight for the border and basically filled this lake, or turned the old lake back into a new lake again. So it had folks all over the place that were looking for places to keep their cattle, and there was lots of livestock that were drowned in the event. And the main highway between here and Vancouver shut down. So it actually, the flood took place on a day that we were going to have a club meeting. And I, at the last minute, notified everybody that I was canceling the meeting. And if I hadn't done so, those people would have been all living in my basement for probably at least a week before the highway opened up again. I think it was actually almost 2 weeks. Then right on the heels of that, we had a huge snowstorm that shut the highway down again. So it's been virtually impossible for people to get together in person for quite a while. But the one thing that I have done personally, I collect a fairly wide variety of different brands and machines, including some mainframe class computers. So I don't have room for 2 of anything. But I got tempted and gave in. I know this is the only computer I have 2 of, 2 Coco Model 2s. So if that tells you anything about how attractive those machines are, they're just a great value, and they're quite affordable as a retro computer, and just a heck of a lot of fun to play with. So that's
by the way, if you tell Coco guys that it's called the Coco Model 2, they're going to make fun of you.
Sorry?
Oh, please do call it a Coco Model 2.
It's a Coco 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, see, I own 2 of them, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So. Well, that's the hazard of collecting a wide variety of different brands and machines, is I don't really know a heck of a lot about any of them except maybe the mainframe class ones where I spent most of my working career. But I can just as easily offend the sensibilities of computer collectors of Commodores and Apple and all the rest of them.
Please do. They have it coming. All right. Cool. We're coming up to, I got 2 minutes to go. Any parting words before I wrap this thing up from anyone? Silence is golden, except to an auctioneer, is what they say.
Thanks for holding this thing once a month, and I enjoyed it.
I just was going to say, if anybody out there knows of a Model 1 monitor, I would that's for sale, or I could borrow to test this Model 1 that I got, I'd appreciate it.
Jay, I have a closet full of them. Reach out to me.
All right, I will.
Yep. I saw on, I think it was one of the Facebook groups or someone's monitor died, which is very rare actually. I found the Model 1 monitors seem to be pretty much unkillable.
Yeah.
Compared to the computers and the power supplies. It's very rare to see one that doesn't work, but
I got a dead one back here I gotta fix.
Jay, it's just composite out, so you should be able to use any composite.
Have challenge accepted.
I gotta agree with Ian. I think I have 10 or 11 of them and they all work in one form or another. Like I've never had, I couldn't.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, everyone. That I'm gonna close the curtain on this one. We'll see you all in a month's time. Keep safe.
Thank you,
Take care.
Matt.
Stay
All right,
safe.
thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.